Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2018 Chevy Colorado, we're going to be showing you how to install the etrailer.com invisible base plate kit with removable arms. But before we get into that, why don't we just take a minute, check this out, and make sure it's going to work for you. There's going to be a total of 5 main parts that you're going to need to flat tow your Colorado down the road. And the first one will be the base plate. That's going to provide you with the solid and reliable connection point. That way you can hook your tow bar up to it. And the tow bar is going to be the physical link that actually connects the front of your truck to the back of your motorhome. Third main part will be safety cables, and those are there in the event of an unlikely disconnect. They're going to keep your truck and the RV connected together. The fourth main part will be your tow bar wiring. And what that'll do is transfer the lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Chevy, keeping you safe and legal. And last but not least, the fifth main part will be the supplemental braking system. What that's going to do is apply the brakes in your truck whenever you hit the brakes in your coach, helping to bring you to a more predictable and safe stop. And there is one other thing too that I would suggest picking up, and that is a automatic battery disconnect. Since this truck requires you to disconnect the battery whenever you flat tow it, that can kind of be a headache doing that every single time. And so Roadmaster actually offers a kit where you hook it up once, and to disconnect and reconnect the battery, all you're going to have to do is push a button. So it really streamlines it and makes it much more simple. This is what the base plate is going to look like whenever you're not hooked up to your motorhome and kind of just cruising around town and whatnot. And I feel like that's important, because you're not always going to be flat towing. And this setup looks pretty good, honestly. Essentially, the base plate just comes out where the tow hooks originally were, so not a major change there. It doesn't look out of place really, or you're not adding a ton of components here at the front of the truck. And it does have a nice, almost a hammer tone finish too. So, it matches the truck look, if you will. But it's still going to be easy to use and easy to get to and everything else whenever you are ready to hook up. It does come with some caps as well, which isn't a huge deal, but a nice touch. You pop them out, and you can put your removable arms in there. And honestly, I think it just it helps keep debris and junk from getting inside of there and chewing that up, and just makes the appearance a little bit better. Gives it a more finished look. When you are ready to hook up, first thing you're going to do is take the removable arms and put them in the base plate. So you'll just rotate the cap. Pop that on out. These arms will slide in. Rotate them about a quarter turn or so. There will be these pins you put in there. That's really all there is to it. You'll want to do the other side as well. And so setup is really straightforward as far as getting the base plate ready. And with the style of these ends here, these are going to be compatible with eTrailer tow bars, Demco tow bars, as well as Blue Ox tow bars. Chances are really good too if you happen to have another manufacturer, say Roadmaster for example. You can pair that tow bar up with this too by using an adapter end. So you'll change out the end on the tow bar, and that'll allow it to pair up with the base plate. Other than that though, a pretty good all-around choice as far as a base plate goes. It doesn't look too bad. It's easy to use, and it's going to work with quite a few different tow bars, so really can't ask too much more there. In terms of installation, really not too bad. Definitely not the easiest nor the hardest that I've done. You do have to remove the front fascia, but everything's pretty easy to get to and see and things like that, so really shouldn't run into too many issues. But if this is something you're going to be doing yourself, feel free to follow along. We'll go ahead and put it on now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the front of our truck and need to pop the hood. We're going to remove our front fascia. And to start with that, along this front edge here, we're going to have a total of 6 fasteners, 3 on each side. The fasteners are going to be T15 torque spit screws. So we'll pull all those out. And I want to mention from this point on, whatever we do to one side of our truck, we're also going to do to the other side because it'll be set up the same way. Now you can move to your front wheel wells. You're going to have 6 fasteners, all T15s. So 3 along the edge and then 3 along the bottom. It does help if you turn your wheel wheels in one way or the other gives you some more space. With that said, grab our Torx bit and get all these removed. Once all those are out, you can grab the wheel liner and just kind of peel it back and push it out of the way. With the wheel liner peeled back, we can get to some other fasteners. I did move over here to the passenger side. It's the same on the driver's side, just so we get a better look at it from over here. So, in case you're wondering, but those three are going to be along that edge, and they're going to have a 7mm head, so we'll go ahead and pull all those out. Underneath the vehicle now, where our wheel well liner kind of ends, there's going to be a metal bracket that comes down, attaching to this plastic piece. You need to remove that fastener. That was a 7mm head screw. And if you kind of just go over more towards the center of the truck, there's going to be a bracket here attaching the fascia as well, and we'll pull this out with a 10mm. Now if you look in the lower portion of your grill, on each side of the truck there's going to be a cutout here on the top part of this plastic, and through there is going to be a 10mm head bolt. So you can grab a socket and an extension. You're going to want to pull those out. Kind of tricky to work that bolt out, so if you got a magnet or something, you can get up in there and grab it and get them removed. Now with the next set of hands, you can get our fascia removed. I put some painter's tape along the seams here just so we don't accidentally scratch anything, but you should just be able to kind of pull down on this, kind of lift up here, and start to work this off. So we carefully remove it. In our case, we don't have any electrical connectors or anything. If you do, you need to disconnect those, but with this off, we'll set it to the side. At this point, we can remove our tow hooks. So I'm just going to pull this foam piece off, move that out of the way. So 18mm head bolts, same size here. There's a nut on the back side. You can hold that so it don't spin. And we'll get these out of the way here. Now we can remove the splash shield. So there's a total of 4 15mm head bolts, 2 on each side. I already got these removed. We'll grab our socket and pull these out. Now you can take this big bushing that they give you, and on the frame rail from the inside there's going to be a hole there from the factory. Take that bushing and push it through, making sure it'll sit flush. Since our base plate is going to sit flat against right here, this crossbar that comes across protrudes out past that, and it's going to interfere with the base plate, and it's just coming out a little too much. You know, the base plate's going to hit and not sit flush. So I'm going to trim that little piece off to give us a clearance, and I'm just going to use a Sawzall to get that done. With that cut, since it had exposed metal, I did put a layer of paint over it just to help protect it against rust. And then what you can do is grab the bolts in your kit. So you're going to have 2 medium length ones. This is for each side. 1 longer one and 1 shorter one. You want the 2 medium length ones. Put on flat washers. Then all the bolts that we're going to use to secure the base plate, you want to put on some of the blue Loctite that they give you on the threads. And then we can grab the side-specific base plate. In our case, it is labeled. If yours isn't, check the instructions. These holes are going to line up with our tow hook holes there. Get our bolts. And push them through. So where the bolts come through, it's the other side. I set that one up already. This one will be the same. Take a flat washer, a split lock washer, and a hex nut, and get them started hand tight. Now we can move to that big bushing that we put in earlier. You're going to take the long bolt and from the inside out, push that through the bushing and through the side of our base plate. Where the bolt comes out on this one, you're just going to take a split lock washer and a hex nut and get it started as well. For this attachment point, you can take the smaller bolt and a flat washer, run your Loctite. There's this pipe spacer here that'll go in between the base plate and our cross member piece. We'll line that up, and then where the bolt comes through, you know, in this channel in the cross member, you're going to put on the appropriate split lock washer and hex nut. Now we can snug up the base plate. You want to start with these two bolts here, and you want to push up on this while you're doing this. In our case, it's really not moving a whole lot, so I'm not going to worry about it, but snug these two down, and then we can do the rest of them. Once all the hardware is snug, you then need to come back with a torque wrench and tighten it all down to the amount specified in the instructions. Now we can come to our fascia and trim it out a little bit. So we have our factory tow hook holes here, and essentially I'm just going to enlarge the bottom up a little bit just to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to use a multi-tool. You can use probably a utility knife or a Dremel tool, whatever you got that you think will work best. And if you want, you can always come back with a file or sandpaper, utility knife, and kind of clean up some of these rough edges. Back to the car, what you can do now is install the safety cables, which are these here. So I just doubled them up, folded it in half, took the included D-link, put it around the opening there in our base plate, one end of the cable through, the other end connects those two, and tighten this down. Do that on each side of the vehicle. And if you want, you can always come in with some zip ties and kind of zip tie these up nice and tight too. That way, you know, we're not going to have to worry about it clanking around when we're driving, hitting bumps and things like that. At this point, it'd be a great time to install any of your other flat towing components like wiring or a braking system. And that's exactly what I'm going to do because we have all this extra space to work. This makes it a lot easier. If you already have those on or you don't plan on using them, at this point, you'd simply reinstall the fascia the opposite way that you removed it. So now that we have all of our other components installed, now we can go ahead, take our fascia and reinstall it the opposite way that we removed it. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the etrailer.com invisible base plate kit with the removable arms on our 2018 Chevrolet Colorado.